to D&D Beyond. I'm Amy Dallen, and I am very excited because today we are going to talk about how many levels? Not one level, not a couple of levels, all of the levels. We are going to talk level 20 D&D with, I feel like, the person on this earth who maybe loves it the most. B. Dave Walters, friend of the channel, minor D&D deity at this point, major deity? I don't know, you choose your own, if anyone wants to start making warlock packs or cleric, dedications, I'm just saying B. Dave might be available. Welcome back to the channel, B. Dave Walters.
Hello. Yes. Thank you for having me back. The fact that I have been ordained by internet pioneer Amy Dallen as major deity. You said minor deity, but I heard major deity also. I'm gonna hook onto that part. You know what it is? You know, remember in the old days, gods were major gods of some things and minor gods of other things. That's it. This is my primary thing that I rule over is that, which is funny. I will tell you real quick. It very much was intentional. When I first got into this community, I obviously I enjoyed high level play just on my own, but one of the first things I learned was fewer than 5% of games had level 20 characters in them. I learned that because of the D&D Beyond data that we had access to. And that wasn't even campaigns that went to level 20, that just even had level 20 characters. So I was very intentional about this is going to be my niche, because this is the part of the game that I like to play and the part of the game that almost no one gets to do. And apparently it worked. So yes, here we are.
Because at this point, when I think level 20, I think about B-Dave. And I'm going to be thinking about it a lot in the next couple of days because, depending on when you're watching this, on Monday, July, what is it, the 12th, I believe?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I am going to be playing in a level 20 one-shot.
What? Is that an ad playing right? Can people see us, or is that a... There it is. Hey, all right. Yeah.
I will be playing with probably dark mode, but on Monday, July 12th, I will be playing in a level 20 one-shot for an amazing cause run by B. Dave Walters. So I thought I would bring you in here to tell me all about how and why to play at those highest levels and what you love so much about it. And B. Dave, would you tell us a little more about this incredible table I'm about to sit at?
I will. The game's being run by me, not the cause run by me, for benefiting WAVA Rape Crisis Centers, which is a charity. I apologize. I don't mean to say any of the things wrong. But they just support people that are going through the most difficult and tragic times in their lives. They do things like organize trips to and from charity, or to and from therapy, trips to and from medical help, resources where if you don't know who to call or who to talk to about it, to put things like that in place, to just support people that are going through these difficulties. And a little bit of money goes a long way, like just $5 gets somebody there and back again. I believe it's like $35 pays for a group session. It's like, it is not very expensive, but it is something that is often overlooked. And so we're going to get together with a group of titans of role playing and hopefully raise a couple dollars to help some people this Monday.
B. Dave Walters is going to be running that table with Charlene, who is from the organization, playing with us. And, of course, Abria, Summer of Abria Iyengar, Travis McElroy, Tanya, a.k.a. Cypher of Tyr, Satine Phoenix, and I will also be getting to sit in for this wonderful cause on Monday. It's going to be on D&D. I hope you will all support it because I think we may already be hitting some of these goals, but they have a crisis hotline, and you can sort of see how much of it can be funded in terms of goals on that. Okay, so that's really important to me, and I'm so glad for this chance to share it. And I'm so glad I get to play in this game, but also level 20 D&D, B. Dave Walters. I have played it with you briefly before, but I have not been in one of your patented level 20 one-shots.
So, fun fact here, Helene, my main character for Dungeons and Dragons: A Dark Wish, who, wait, hang on, she was on my desktop over here. I don't know how Will cropped it. You may or may not be able to see her on my other screen over here when it comes on. But Amy Dallen was the first person ever to technically play Helene. She was when we were at D&D in a castle. She jumped in, and she was Helene, and Rick Budd, Underground King Rick Budd, played Xander. There she is. She's back there. She's always with me. Oops, hang on. I almost left the Zoom meeting. That would have been bad.
Please don't leave the Zoom meeting.
Please don't leave the Zoom meeting. There she is. Helene's with me. And you know what? I went through all of that, and there's a real chance you can't even see that screen. But Amy was the first person to ever play her. That is true. And it was in a level 20 game of D&D in a castle.
A huge honor.
Yes, I shan't forget. Yeah, again, a part of this is, I mean, I've been playing D&D since dinosaurs ruled the earth. Where high level play was very uncommon because, quite frankly, the game was very difficult. It was very easy to die, but it was like every day was hard if you were a wizard, and then you hit level 9, and then you were like, oh, actually, I'm God now. Like, look at my face. Look at my face. I'm the dungeon master now. And then I think it was informed by all the years I spent as a heavy MMO player, because, you know, like World of Warcraft landed like right on my face from vanilla. In EverQuest and things even before that, where a lot of times the end game is where the game actually started. That it's like, well, you were done leveling, but now is when you get to do the stuff that's really fun. I think it also was informed by my martial arts background. A lot of people think earning a black belt means you're finished. Just like, no, earning a black belt is when you started. So I kind of had these two other things in my head that people, again, so few games get to 20, and there was this idea that it's like, oh, well, we're done now, you know, let's re-roll new characters and climb this mountain again. And I was like, no, there's so much fun to be had at the top of the mountain. Which my very first stream, Theogony of Kairos, I did, with the whole principle of that was they were level 0 humans who were gifted by the gods with their powers and given level 20 powers. So that was the first thing we ever did. And then since then, every time I run a charity game, for sure, that's always my thing, because I just love seeing the look in people's eyes that I saw in Amy's eyes when they're like, level 20. And I'm like, yes, level 20. Yeah, so.
I love that, and it absolutely tracks, because I also, in MMOs, tend to be I have started a million characters and none of them quite make it to the end game, which I've also been playing D&D since some minor dinosaurs were wandering the earth with 2nd edition, but I start a lot more characters than I get to play long term. So I am very excited. What are the things to consider if you are, say, jumping in? If you are, like, do you recommend this for new players, experienced players, or both?
I mean, even though I've very much had people that the first time they ever played were in level 21 shots with me, all things being equal, I don't, you know, if you've never played, like if you're watching, hello friend, if you're watching this on D&D Beyond, but have never rolled the shiny math click clacks on your own, maybe don't do your very first one at level 20. For anybody else, if you've done it like 2 or 3 times, jump on in, because the concept is the same. I will tell you, there are 2 very different things where, as you know, I've spent a number of time on this delightful channel talking about builds and min-maxing and stuff, because, you know, that's what I love. That's how my head works. There are some builds that would be wholly impractical trying to grow up playing this character session after session, week after week. It just wouldn't be fun, because you need certain synergies that don't click in for a while, you know? Those kinds of builds are ideal for things where you just jump right into 20, where you can, like, this would have been terrible and awkward growing up, but we skipped our braces and acne phase and now we're a supermodel. Yeah,
ugly duckling situation. Yeah,
exactly.
Most of us didn't get to skip our braces phase, so, you know, more wish fulfillment in D&D.
There it is, right? Your character can have an easier life than some of us had, you know. That's something to be mindful of. The other thing is, I know a lot of times people look at it as just doing a single class, but you really do get some truly fantastic synergies that come together with other classes. Things like if you're level 3 barbarian, level 17 moon druid, like, you're basically unkillable. Yeah, I said what I said, Amy Dallen, you know. Things like a Sorkiden, you know, sorcerer paladin is probably the strongest character in the game, is a sorcerer paladin.
Where would you put the mix there?
So barbarian druid, that's pretty much fixed. To the barbarian 3 druid 17, you still get your level 9 spells. With the Sorkiden, it really depends. It depends on how fighty you want to get. I don't think you need more than 3 to possibly 6 levels of paladin, but it really just depends. It's like if you want to be a paladin that can also throw fireballs, or do you want to, throw meteor swarm but be able to smite, and then that sort of different characters will show up on the field based on that. But the synergy between those two is very strong. Anything with ranger, about 5 levels of ranger is a good 3 to 5 levels of ranger is a good chassis for almost anything else. I hate to say it because I know some people love rangers with their whole heart. There's not much reason to stay as a ranger more than 5 levels because you kind of gotten the juice out of that class. But things like gloomstalker, assassin rogue, especially if you want to go crazy here, this is one of my favorite things. You need 5 levels of gloomstalker, 3 levels of assassin rogue, 2 levels of grave cleric, and the rest in fighter. You can attack, I think, 9 times and make them like susceptible to your damage. So you mark them: Path of the Grave, assassin rogue, Gak. You can backstab for literally like 200 points of damage, then accent surge and do it all over again. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's butter.
Okay,
I love it.
So yeah. I need to stop just for a moment on this one. If you are that combination assassin, fighter, cleric,
Ranger,
Gloomstalker, what's your story? How did this happen? Like, what? Tell me who this person is.
So I can give it to you very specifically. If any of you saw Pirates of Leviathan on Dimension 20, my character Marcid the Typhoon, who was a ranger, if we were ever blessed to revisit those characters, and if they went on long enough, this is what is going to happen to Marcid. This is the plan. Because, and again, friends, you don't have to be like me. You don't have to play the game like me. There's no wrong way to play D&D as long as you're having a good time and the game you're playing is the game everybody else is playing at the table. We've discussed that. Everybody's got to be on the same page of what this is. If one person thinks this is going to be, the dungeon meat grinder murder hobo, and the other one thinks this is going to be like high drama waifu fanfic, you're in for a bad time. As long as everybody's shown up to play the same game, do you. I do this thing where I plan my characters out because it is a holdover from the 3.0 and 3.5 times when you had prerequisites for things where you're like, you can only do this higher level thing if you made this previous choice way at the beginning. And if you made the wrong choice early, it very much locked you in. 5th edition is far more forgiving in that respect. But I never outgrew the trauma. So every character you've ever seen me play, and I do mean ever, whatever level I was, I knew their level all the way to 20. For Freely, I've got a spreadsheet. Hang on, wait, you guys won't believe this. I am gonna show Amy right now my Freely spreadsheet so that she knows this is true.
Very excited.
Yeah, where I've mapped out everything that I would do and at what level and everything, because for this very reason, I'm still a child of that era, right? There you go. That's it. That is literally my Freely map. Because he's 4 classes. He is a bard, paladin, warlock, sorcerer.
I like that you've marked out highlights along the way, landmarks on this journey. I feel like, and just to a personal challenge moment, I feel like the next thing you have to do then is make a character either with no path or who gets wrenched violently off their path midway through.
I mean, I could, to your point about the story, believe it or not, because I'm going to answer both of these questions. To me, the story and the character are not synonymous. If you left your village to go adventuring because, your mother died as a general in the wars and you want to find out, where and what happened and pay respects at her grave. That could be anything. That could be a barbarian. That could be a bard. That could be a warlock. I mean, if you get into the nuances of, well, I made a bad deal in my warlock pact, I'm like, well, maybe, but even so, why'd you make the pact? So the story part of it can be a fairly universal adapter. Right. I do think, of course, if you're like, I decided I was going to go fight for the glory of my god. Yeah, okay, you would think, well, that's a paladin or a cleric, but again, it doesn't have to be,
Yeah,
you know?
you could be a really religious fighter.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, yay, verily, action surge. Yeah. So, that's why the story can come with Freely. His thing with those 4 classes, his premise is he's just lucky and he was born special. If you notice, none of those classes are things that you be formally trained in. So he literally doesn't know why he can do what he does. He just does things. Like he hits people with his sword and divine light goes off. Like, okay, I was born to fight bad guys, and that is the extent of his worldview.
But that's a beautifully revealing detail in terms of character building. And folks watching this, like B-Dave has done this many, many times, so he makes it look effortless. But the way that he just slipped in there, that you chose a bunch of classes that all lent themselves to similar origins for the character you were building, because it wouldn't fit that person to be like, and then I spent 15 years at wizard school, you know?
Right. Yeah.
It wouldn't fit.
Absolutely. And not mechanically. All 4 of those classes are charisma based, so that was also part of that there. So there's layers to this thing. Now, as for a character with no path that got violently violently wrenched off of it, I think I could only do that personally if it was a single class character. And again, 5th edition is far more forgiving about that. Again, in previous editions, especially 3 and 3.5, there was just no reason to stay any one class. Like some classes were better than others, but the game actively rewarded multi-classing. And I know what I say, rangers, barbarians, there's not a lot of reason to go the whole way, but you absolutely can. Like you won't sit down at the table and somebody's like, why would you ever do this? Which is one of the beauties of 5th edition. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about those classes, because I did make some notes. If you're going all the way in one class to level 20, so I was just browsing along, shopping for the high level features that maybe somebody watching at home, like maybe you haven't read all the way to the end of your class description.
You should.
But I would love to hear favorites. Obviously, no judgment. Every class is fun to play, in my opinion. But I've noticed that the top level features group into a couple of categories. There are the level 20 is where you get free refills. There are several classes that fall into this, where it's sort of like you're never going to go into battle without your key or your sorcery points, because we're going to kind of give you free refills there. But there are also some really interesting other options, like the Paladin. I think I had never noticed has a very wide variation at level 20, because level 20 is going to give you a different oath feature, a different sacred oath feature, including the Avenging Angel for Oath of Vengeance, literally grow wings as a level 20 Paladin. That's just very cool. So Dave, would you want to talk about them in groups, or can I just hit you with them one by one and be like, quick takes?
You can hit me with them one by one with the quick takes. I will say, but again, see, this is where I'm a monster, you all. I'm so happy that the Paladin's like, yay, I get wings. I'm like, everybody else had wings 15 levels ago. It's
about personal bests, B-Dave. If you didn't have wings yet, now you do.
That's true. It's you've made it through 19 levels of not wings to have wings. Yeah, okay. Yes, please. No, give them to me. But my body's ready.
Okay, Artificer gets Soul of Artifice, which is your not quite dead thing. Have you run any level 20 Artificers? They're relatively newer.
I have not run any level 20. Artificer is a weird thing. I go all the way back to Eberron with those. It's tough. I mean, it's great that you've have built your Mecha Godzilla thing by then, which I think is really great. So they get some of their bonuses based on all the things that they're attuned to. And they can attune to more things, which is interesting. If they get dropped to 0 hit points, they can go to 1 instead of 0. The problem is Death Ward's a thing. So we've already had access to that for a while. I find a lot of the Capstone abilities, the level 20 abilities, very rarely are game changing. And the best one is Barbarian, by the way, even though I've said multiple times you shouldn't play Barbarian, but I guess we're going to get to that here in a second. I know that's not Barbarian, just pure to 20, but yes, please.
Let's talk Barbarians, because Primal Champion is like, oh, you made it to level 20? Have
Yep.
4 extra points of strength and constitution,
Yep.
unlimited rage at this point, and your caps for those abilities go to 24.
Yep.
Why wouldn't you want to go all the way on Barbarian?
You can become ultra strong at level 20. It's because everything from about 15 to 20 was kind of the same. That's why,
Okay.
you know, and if that's your thing, that's cool. But it's like for the most part, you rage and you hit things. And then also you rage and you can hit something. And then every once in a
That is why
while,
you signed up to be a barbarian. I'm just
that
saying.
is true. That is true. But you can there's many shades and flavors of synergistically raging and hitting things. Where is that? Because I mean, I've played barbarians for quite a ways. And then you get your primal path things. Depending which primal path you take, you know, things like the bear totem, you just get better at getting hit. So if that is the gameplay experience that you want, that is fine, and you of course can do that, and eventually you can become very strong, as we have seen. But I feel like eventually you're going to maybe want something different than I rage and I hit it, you know. Which barbarian, I mean, some of the paths are a little different, but for the most part, that's the gameplay experience of being a barbarian. And then you can become ultra strong. The fact that they can become the strongest and most durable is really great, though, by the way. That I do shout out to my barbarian homies. You will have earned it, by the way, if you get to level 20 as a barbarian.
I do love the idea that you just like you level up and you're just literally up +4 in each of those. Like you woke up that day being like, "Woo, ate my Wheaties, let's go."
You've done a lot of reps on the path up the mountain there. Yeah.
Bard gets superior inspiration, which I would say is the first of the free refills one. You get you always have inspiration at initiative if you've run out, and it's a D12 by then. So just generally kind of get some stuff out of the way of using your Bard abilities, which by that time should be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's you theoretically, I'm like it gives you the opportunity that you have to be less stingy with your abilities. If you're not familiar with bards, they can either give a bonus to friends. Most of the subclasses have something where they can use their bardic inspiration dice for themselves. So you every round you get to do your thing at least once, which I think is great. But I mean, by then you can already do your thing a lot of times in a day. I don't even know how many uses of bardic inspiration you have. At 20, your inspiration dice go up to, I don't know how many uses you've got at 20. It's several though.
I have to look that up. Many.
Also, but at level, but there is nope. I was gonna say yeah, but you get your level 9 spells, but you already got that at 17. It's I will say this, okay, Bard is probably my favorite class, which, like, you know, 1996 me would never ever imagine me saying out loud, but it's true. Bards are incredible. Bards are almost multi-classed as just a single individual anyway. They get a little bit of everything, especially depending which college you take. Swords bards and valor bards and lore bards are all, I think a level 20 lore bard is probably the most powerful and diverse character in the game, probably, if we're talking single class. But you know, at 18 you get magical secrets, which is where you get spells from another class's spell list, which is incredible, especially because you can get other people's high level spells. So you're like, I'm a bard who can cast meteor swarm, get out of my face. You know, and then one more feat and that's superior inspiration. So I think the path up the mountain and the things you get as a bard is what makes that class worth playing, not the capstone. I can't think of any of these classes that I'm like, the capstone is why you do it, you know, but
they're more like icing on the cake. But okay.
Yes.
Let's take the next 3 are cleric. Your divine intervention will auto succeed. Your druid will, I'll give you a sec. Hold on. We're going to do 3 at a time. Cleric, divine intervention, auto success. Druid, archdruid. It's a whole thing. It's pretty amazing. Unlimited wild shapes. No components ever. That's not exactly true, but, you know, mostly no components ever. Fighters get 4 attacks by this time, just as their regular thing. All right, cleric, druid, fighter. But, B-Dave?
I know I just said none of them were worth it. I completely rescind my statement. It depends. The cleric divine intervention automatically working is incredible. That kind of depends on how your DM is. If you're not familiar with cleric, you have a certain percentage chance to call your god and ask for help. I think they get it at like level 3 or 4, and it's
Pretty
basically however many percent you are in the class is your chance. So if you're a level 10 cleric, you have a 10% chance. If you're a level 15 cleric, you have a 15% chance. If you're a level 19 cleric, you have a 19% chance. At 20, you have 100% chance to be, as Chris Perkins says, I'm a level 20 cleric. I don't work for my god works for me. So, you know, pending how your DM interprets that, that is an absolutely fantastic power where you're like, we've got a problem. Tyr, could you do something about this? You know, and he will, you know. That's really great. The Archdruid one is kind of a snore fest, I think, because by then you're already used to, you know, dealing with your wild shapes and timing that stuff out, and you know, unlimited wild shapes is fine, I guess, but you've already got like 4 or 5 by then if you're gonna, because most sessions you only fight once or twice anyway, you know, like it's rare to have like 4 to 5 combats in a session where I would need to wild shape and unwild shape, you know. The fighter thing, being able to attack 4 times is great, especially with your action surge. Action surge just means you can take the attack action again, by the way. So you can attack multiple times. You got your offhand attack. By then, you've probably picked up a bunch of feats that might give you an extra attack under certain circumstances. So you're laying out, you know, 10 or so attacks in a game. But this is one of those times too that group synergies end up being really important, because at D&D in a Castle, with that group you played with, we had one character who was a samurai, so she was attacking, you know, 8 to 9 times around. The wizard put foresight on her, which gave her advantage, and somebody else put holy weapon on her, which every time you've got advantage, it's automatically a crit or something like that. There was this unique synergy of the fact that because she had advantage, she hit like a truck and then did it like 9 times. So they super Captain Planeted her, not even knowing that they'd done it. And then, you know, we went into this last fight and she was just like a meat grinder. That is another level of this, especially if you play with people that you know and enjoy, is you can also customize your characters to support each other.
Yeah.
Where times like that, where back to my aforementioned thing about the assassin rogue and the grave cleric, the assassin rogue and the grave cleric can be 2 different characters, where it's like I mark them with path of the grave and then gank, you know. So yeah.
And that's, you know, a big part of the fun of these games, obviously, to state the obvious, is the fact that when that teamwork is working, you're like, we literally couldn't do this by ourselves, but we are absolutely exponentially more powerful because we have grown together and learned together and chosen these paths and woven people whose destinies, if this is the way you want to go, it is this beautiful, the idea of we should be close and a good team put into practice in this undeniable way, which is just real fun. All right, next 3. Monk, perfect self, never out of key points. Paladin, Sacred Oath feature. I mean, who doesn't like having key points? Sacred Oath feature, tons of variations there for some sort of like last minute icing on your Paladin.
Like
Ranger,
wings.
Foe Slayer, add your wisdom modifier to attack or damage of favorite enemies once per turn. Monk, Paladin, Ranger, thoughts?
Monk, I mean, okay, I guess. Again, you know, you never run out of gas, but this is one of those things. It's like all of these refill ones are great in the sense that you never run out of the thing you do, but you've already had 19 levels to get used to budgeting the thing you do. So, I mean, it's okay, I guess, you know. The Foe Slayer thing is potentially really great. In the sense that you're guaranteed to hit, and by then you have racked up a lot of subclass features that when you hit, this thing happens. So it's like the ranger is guaranteed to have a chance to apply their stuff, which is cool. Again, you've chosen a hard road if you go to level 20 as a ranger, so I salute you. You've earned it.
I'm curious, Lord Coyote in the chat said, how would you improve the Ranger 20th level capstone? But it sounds like you already pretty much like it because it works nicely with the other Ranger stuff you've got going on by then.
Yeah, it is very flavorful for the Ranger, and I'm not the only one that's knocking Ranger. You know, the improved Ranger was an unearthed Arcana a little while back. So was the improved Rogue for similar reasons. So if you feel like underwhelmed by your Ranger or Rogue, you got some other opportunities that exist. And you know, recently they rolled out a lot of the optional class features too, so you can kind of recurjigger a lot of these things to fit a little better your vision for the character.
All right, next up. Rogue gets Stroke of Luck, which is an auto hit or auto 20 once per short rest. And that's a 20 on a skill check, just because I don't want to say auto success, because that's the whole thing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Sorcerer gets Sorcerer's Restoration, free refills, +4 sorcery points on short rest. Warlock gets Eldritch Master. You can get all your packed spell slots back once per long rest. And Wizard will get 2 signature spells that are just kind of freebies. I'm oversimplifying, but 2 third-level spells, you always have prep, don't count against your prep limit, and don't require a spell slot to cast once per short or long rest. So out of Rogue, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Wizard, any faves for level 20?
The Warlock Eldritch Master, because you can get all your spells back in 1 minute, but you can only do it once till you get the long rest. Because you know, Warlocks are perpetually very spell slot starved, especially if you're doing things like if you're a Hexblade and you're using Eldritch Smite, so you're getting in there and actually like fighting hand to hand. You can exhaust your spell slots super quickly. So the fact that one being able to get a refill is really dope. The wizard thing, I mean, again, it's fine, but you got so many spells by that point that you're like, I guess, I don't know. It's like becoming wealthy when you've been on a fixed income for 20 years. I mean, the money's fine. The money's fine, but you're like, I already can pay for everything in this house, you know, so.
The extra $50 not really making a big difference in your mansion.
Exactly. You know, like I guess you can order some extra cheese on the pizza, I suppose. But the Warlock one is really great.
I imagine also could be different depending on your play style. If you're doing a lot of sort of one and dones, then this is not going to come up as much. But if you are playing a campaign where, for instance, your play style is to pay a lot of attention, like really stressing those limits, like one day could last multiple sessions, you're playing with encumbrance, you're counting on components and materials, like in a game like that, these limits could be a really fun sort of, we battled our way all the way to 20 and now we get to shopping spree, essentially.
Yeah. And you know, to my previous point about this is when the game really starts, is if you've really played these characters this long, you've gotten to this point, and then you are continuing playing this, just not having to worry about some of the old things you used to worry about is of use, you know. So yeah, that's I guess it's what so many of these come back to, if you think about it, is you always have the ability to do your defining thing, you know. Which is really great, because I think all of us have experienced being in a situation where you're completely out of spell slots, or completely out of rage, or completely out of wild shapes, and it can be a hard go of things, especially depending where you are. So if you're like, oh, I'm never gonna have that problem again, yes. But I think if I had to pick one winner, it is divine intervention, though. Getting the gods to literally do a thing for you on command is astonishing. And I've when I did a level 20 game with Chris Perkins, and he used divine intervention because they were fighting the Tarrasque, because of course they were, and the Tarrasque was attacking a city, actually. They were trying to stop it. When he used divine intervention, I had I had his god send reinforcements, which sent like solars and planetars to like help them fight the Tarrasque, was the way the god reacted, just because that's incredible, to tell you the truth. So yeah, I think, because if you think about it, you're like, well, a rogue can always pass a skill check, that's cool. Druid can always wild shape, all right. Tiamat will come in person every day. You know,
there's so much flavor there.
Yeah,
I will say also, like the wizard's signature spells, I just love as an idea that you're like, just the name chosen for that one is so beautifully flavorful, where by the time you're level 20, you're like, this is the one I can do without looking. I just, you know, behind the back fancy sports move, blah 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 blah. My spell.
You're like, also it's fireball.
We have a fantastic question here from a Cup of Squids. 20th level characters have a ton of abilities. Any advice on how to organize all of that information so that it's all in one place and easily scannable so you don't forget things in the midst of combat?
I do use D&D Beyond. It arranges all of this magnificently for you. That really is my advice. D&D Beyond does set it all up very easily. It is rough. It is rough. If you've ever watched any of my streams, inevitably people are like, and I'm like, take your time. It's cool. Level 20 is a lot. You got a lot of options, especially because quite often you have multiple things that can all work at once. Like, you know, when I play freely, he's a swords bard, which means he can do things like his bard defensive slash. But if he hits with his bard defensive slash, he can still smite. You know, anytime the blade touches, he can still smite. So stuff like that, you just gotta. My advice is read through it in advance. In worst case, just make a note of the things that it's like, well, I can only do this, or these things, I can do all of these things. Like if you guys ever watch me play, the main thing I'll do all the time is his shadow blade into the green flame blade with smite. But if I do that, he can only attack once. He can't attack twice. So I'll have to consciously decide, and you can watch in the games, you'll know what's going through my noodle. Is it worth landing one big hit on this thing, which usually if it is difficult to hit, that's what I do? Or is it worth hitting it twice and smiting twice, which if it's fairly easy to hit, or if I've got to chop it down really quickly, that's what I'll do. Because you start dropping two max level smites on things per round, and then hopefully one of them is going to be a crit, especially with the hex blade feature. You can tear something up pretty fast. So
and I will say, I learned relatively recently that we have a feature on D&D Beyond where you can customize things to display as attack. So a spell that you know you want to use all the time, or a feature that you know is going to be one of your go-tos, you can make yourself a little table of contents by having them display as attack. Like click into the customize, hit that little checkbox, and now you've got your little in-battle shopping list. You still have to remember about your spell slots and other stuff, but if you just want what are the 5 things that I know I can do? Let's do this. That will be right there.
Yeah, it can be a challenge. I mean, it still happens to everybody, especially when like something terrible's going on and you're like, I got something in here. Especially a lot of those single shot things that you never use, like favored by the gods for a sorcerer, where you get an extra 2d4 to your save. You're like, I haven't needed this in 6 sessions, but boom, yeah, right. I will say also, D&D Beyond is especially useful for as you get higher in level and you start upcasting spells and the dice pools become unwieldy. You know, down in the lower left corner, you can click on the dice, you add up your pools over there, and that's the fastest way to do it.
A strange fondness, because I love a lot of games that are sort of classic bucket of dice games. I know they are not everybody's favorite, but there's just something delightful about being like, all the dice at once. But there's also something delightful about the math getting done for you, especially when everyone is waiting on you. So that's kind of a win-win. You get to see all the pretty dice, and nobody has to wait.
I have a number of the shiny click clacks right there. Yeah, so believe me, I know exactly how you feel. It's rough as a paladin though. There's the D8s are always in short supply.
Well, there's just the extra mental pause where you're like D8 or D10, D8 or D10. Like no matter how many years go by, I still have to stop. All right, that is about all the time we have for today. B-Day, final thoughts on playing level 20, and where can people find you and all of the various great stuff you do?
Do it. It's so much fun, and it really is not that much more difficult than anything else. People think the game is harder at 20. It isn't. The game is harder at 1. You got a lot less options, and a goblin on a crit can lay you out, you know? I mean, there is stuff like power word kill, but for the most part, you're going to survive any single round of almost anything, and then you got a lot more options to get in there and do it. So yeah, enjoy it. And my advice is take this thought exercise. Take your current character, level them up to 20, see what they would look like. What would you do with the rest of it? What would you outfit them like? What would it look like? And then, you know, maybe talk to your DM about running a one-shot. You'll be glad you did. And you can cast divine intervention, and that means you can DM me on Twitter, and I personally will intervene in your game to say what to do. Follow me on the tweetagrams at bdavewalters. Yes, Monday playing for Waiver Rape Crisis Centers with the Amy Dallen and a cadre of amazing humans. And then next weekend, I will be all over D&D Live. I will be hosting. I will be running a game for the cast of AP Bio, which lamentably will not be level 20, which hurts my heart. But I've been forced to adapt due to circumstances.
It's still fun at the other levels. I'm just saying.
Yes. That's what I've been told, I guess. Well, we're going to have some fun. You're going to see me do that. And then we will be playing, I'll be playing in the Beetle and Grimm's game where I will be level 1, where I will show you demonstrably the game is far more difficult and lethal at level 1. Yeah.
I am so excited for all of that. A quick reminder, if you're watching this, that we are going to have a lot more information about cool stuff that's coming up after next weekend and D&D Live. So there are a whole lot of reasons to set your dials to those channels next week. But also, thank you in advance for showing up for the Weba fundraiser that we get to play in. I am so excited to play some level 20 D&D with you, B-Dave. I will see you next time.
I know we're signing off. But Ambush, what are you thinking about playing on Monday for your level 20 character?
This was definitely not me partly doing my homework by asking you all your opinions. So I'm going to make people tune in and find out which of these versions or what multi-class combo I land on by Monday for this game.
Brilliant.
And now you've seen my strategies at work, my synergy effect of D&D Beyond and this upcoming game. Thank you so much. And I'm really glad you asked that because I had planned to tease that and then totally forgot. Tune in Monday, find out how this all lands. We are going to hopefully have a great game and raise a lot of money for a really, really good cause. And thank you for watching D&D Beyond.
It's D&D.